Hello everybody, Bearded Appliance Repair here. Remember that question I asked you guys last week in my last video I put out? If you are working on an electric oven and your bake and your broil element do not work, what are some reasons why? We're going to go over that today. Here's a little brief look at one of the schematics I drew up for you guys today. But to get right into it, how these elements work. You got L1 and L2, and all that means is 120 volts and then 120 volts. Because if you know, these elements, they run off of 240, and you need two legs of 120 for an element to work. So you got one coming in to the control board, and then whenever you hit bake on your control, opens up this relay, sends power to the element right there. And then your L2, you need your L2 as well coming from the other side, or your element's not going to work. So if you only have 120 going through it, I mean, it's just going to, act like a wire. These elements, they're rated for 240 volts. So whenever 240 hits it, that's when it uses that power and it heats up. If 120 gets to it, doesn't do anything. So if we're looking at this schematic, L1's coming in, you hit bake, you got power to your bake element. And then to finish the circuit, you go through the bake element, up here, through this fuse, to the double line break relay that's on the control board, back that way. And you guys don't see neutral, or you don't see ground on this. I'm keeping it simple for you guys, because whenever you're talking about these elements, the only thing it really uses for the elements is 240 volts. 120 on one side, 120 on the other. So, that being said, the number one cause for your bake element and your broil element not working at the same time, let me get a red marker here. This fuse right here. What that fuse does, whenever your oven's heating up, it blows a lot during self-clean cycle. We get a lot of these calls right before Thanksgiving. Customers, they want to clean their ovens, make sure it's nice and clean before everybody's over at their house. Whenever they use self-clean, your oven gets upwards to about 900 degrees or so. And when that happens, that fuse blows. So it doesn't matter what time of year, if somebody is calling me saying, hey, my oven's not heating up, or hey, my broil element's not working, or my bake element's not working, I always test both. I test bake and I test broil. If bake is not working and broil is not working, that fuse is the first thing I'm looking at. If that fuse is good, I'm checking to make sure we got L2. Because you guys might not know it. I've ran into it a few times. You can have L1 and it'll look like your oven is, working, or it's got the right power. So you got L1, you got lights on your display, you can hit bake, you can set your temp, you can hit start. Sounds like it's working, but it's just not heating up, because this L2, that's all it's there for. L2 is only there for heating these elements up. That's it. L1 controls everything else. Controls the lights on your display, the controls, your touchpad, your cooling fan, temperature sensors, all that stuff. So that's the number 2 thing. Second thing I'm looking at, missing L2 voltage. If that's not there, customers got to call an electrician. We're not licensed to do that. We work on appliances. Say you have L2 there. L2 is good. You got L2 to your board. what you want to do next is make sure these elements are getting power. Because if you check an element right here and right here while you have it on, so you got the you got the oven pulled out, you got the back panel off, you got power on it, you hit bake, you hit start, you put one of your leads here and your other lead there, you need to get 240 volts. If you don't get 240 volts, if it says 0, you got to check voltage. You got to take one lead off. So let's say we take off that lead there, and then we check, see if we have 120 there, and see if we have 120 there. If we have 120 there, but we don't have it here, I'm looking at this relay right here. This is your double line break relay. The old, I'll actually show you guys. That's what this is. This schematic here is the older version. Let me tilt that up a little bit so there's no glare. Yeah. All right. This schematic here, same thing. L1 to the board, except for this one here, it goes straight to the elements. Old versions of these elements, L2 went straight to the elements, and that's what it did. It didn't do nothing, didn't go through the control board or anything. Modern day, L2 goes through your board, through that double line break relay to the other side. What this does with this relay here, whenever you pull your oven out, you got the back panel off. There's not power on this element whatsoever. It's not here, it's not here, it's waiting at your double line break relay here, and it's right at your bake element relay here. So it's one of those safety things, and if it's one of these older ones, you gotta be careful, because there's always power on them. Always there. So you got 120 there, 120 there, and whenever you hit bake, you get the other 120 there, and it heats it up. So that's the older design. This is a modern day design, and this is a schematic on how they work. So to go over this again, the question was, if your bake and your broil element are not working, what are some things it could be? Number one is your fuse, right here. You check that, fuse is good. Number two, make sure you got L2 voltage. And then number three is going to be this double line break relay. So your fuse, L2, or your control board. Another thing it could be, which is very rare, is like a break in the wire or something. So if this wire is broke and you got 120 coming through here, it's stopping right there. That's more rare, along with both the elements being out. That's rare as well. But yeah, those are the most common most common things that could be the issue if bake and your broil element don't work. But I want to say, let's go back to testing these things. Give you guys a little bit more information here. Bake element. Back to the bake element. When you're testing it here and you're testing it here, it's supposed to get 240 volts. If you get 0 and you have one lead there, you're going to take one lead off. So we're going to take this lead off the element, and we're going to check it right here to ground, or there to neutral. What I usually do is I put one lead there, and then I put another lead on the cabinet. If you get 120 there, you know that this relay is good. And then when you come back here and you test it right here to ground and you get nothing, you know there's something going on here. Whether it's in the fuse, the relay, or power from the wall. So usually you're looking at your relay board if you're not getting any voltage here, because we already checked the fuse and we already checked for L2. So most likely it's going to be your board. But to prove it, you make sure what side you're missing it on. And, well, either way, if this ain't getting power here or if this ain't getting power here, those two parts are on the same board. So you can just assume your control board is bad. Alright, so here's my list of the top 5 reasons why the bake and the broil element are not working at the same time. Number 1 is the fuse. That usually goes out if somebody uses a self-clean cycle. It can also go out during normal use if the element gets a little bit too warm. Say you change out that fuse and it happens again, you got a more serious issue. Whether it's one of your line voltages being shorted to ground, or your temperature probe is not reading the right temperatures. Usually, if that's the case, you'll get an error code of some sort, especially on the newer models. On the older models you can't, but also customers should mention something about ovens overheating or something along those lines. Number 2 reason, missing L2 voltage. Believe it or not, that is definitely, believe it or not, that is a real common problem where L1 is there but L2 is not. Whether it's their breaker that's gone out or a little critter has chewed up the L2 wiring in the wall, but I have ran into that on multiple occasions. Number 3 is your relay board. And I say this, your fuse, and check this before you get this board, because you do want to check everything else before you get a board. You don't want to spend $300 on a board if you're missing L2 voltage or if this fuse is out. These are way cheaper than a relay board. So before you order a relay board, make sure that's what you need. These down here are the least common for both your broil and bake element being out, but it's still possible issues. This is just a top 5 list here. I'm sure there's other things it could be, but those are probably the most common. Fuse, missing L2, relay board, both your elements being out, and the wiring on the L2 side could be chewed up, burnt up, something along those lines. Yeah, that's it. That's both bake and broil elements being out at the same time. It's a very common thing. So whenever you guys check out these ovens and somebody's saying, my bake element quit working, check both your bake and your broil. If your broil works, you can take this L2 portion of it out of the equation. If your broil works, you know all of this is good. And you're looking at either your element or your board or a temperature sensor. That's another topic we can talk about on another day. If you guys actually like this kind of stuff, these tips and stuff that I've learned over the years, if you're a technician out in the field, if you know these little tricks, you can figure out something most of the time by not taking this thing apart. Because what I do usually, I go out to this bake element problem and I test both the bake and broil. Neither are working. 9 times out of 10 it's that fuse. I go ahead and order it. 9 times out of 10, that's the problem. Especially if you say, hey, did you guys clean this thing recently? And then they're like, yeah, it happened right after we cleaned it. Or if they cleaned it a week prior. Something like that. Yeah. It's a fuse. 9 times out of 10. I order it, come back, put it in, and that's it. I can't recall that not being the problem. it's got to happen to me once. I'm sure I put in that fuse and was like, oh crap, it still ain't working. And then I realized I have missing L2. It's been a long time since that's happened to me, but 9 times out of 10, that's what it is. It's your fuse. Anyways, I do hope this helps you guys out there. I probably left some information out, so if you have any questions about anything we just talked about, shoot me a comment below. I'm here to help. Thanks for watching.